Bea Arthur was one of the most loved comedy icons in television history, but few knew the real story behind her life. When she died in 2009, fans remembered her as Dorothy from The Golden Girls or Maude from All in the Family, but the truth about who she really was, what she endured, and what she had remained unknown for years. Even the government once tried to erase part of her history, and only recently have fans begun to understand the depth of her story and her struggles. Bea Arthur was born Bernice Frankel on May 13, 1922, in Brooklyn, New York. Her parents, Philip and Rebecca, were Jewish immigrants who had fled Europe during hard times, hoping to start over in America. But they arrived during the Great Depression, and life was far from easy. The family owned a small women's clothing store, doing their best to survive. When money got tight, they left New York for Cambridge, Maryland, to reopen their business. But the move brought new struggles. Cambridge was mostly Christian, and the Frankels were one of the few Jewish families in town. Bernice was teased for her religion and her height. By high school, she was almost 5 feet 10 inches, and her classmates made sure she never forgot it. Instead of giving in, she developed a sharp sense of humor and a quick wit as her defense. She could silence a room with her voice or her sarcasm, and by graduation, she was voted wittiest girl. That ability to turn pain into laughter would shape her entire future. In 1943, just 5 days after women were allowed to enlist in the Marines, 21-year-old Bernice signed up. It was a brave move for a young woman at the time. She asked to be a truck driver, even though she had likely never driven before. During her 2.5 years in service, she worked in several positions, from dispatch to medical work, quickly rising through the ranks to staff sergeant. One of her superiors described her as strict but incredibly effective. While serving, she married a fellow Marine, Robert Allen Arthur, but the marriage didn't last. She kept his last name but changed the spelling to Arthur. Years later, Bea denied ever having served in the military, perhaps out of pain or a desire to leave that part of her life behind. After her discharge in 1945, she turned to acting. In 1947, she joined the dramatic workshop at the New School in New York, studying under German director Erwin Piscator alongside future legends like Marlon Brando and Tony Curtis. That same year, she made her stage debut at the Cherry Lane Theatre in Greenwich Village. The theater was small, and the pay was low, but Bea's deep voice and commanding presence stood out. She quickly earned a reputation for being unforgettable. By 1954, she got her big break in the Threepenny Opera, which ran for 6 years and became one of the longest-running off-Broadway shows at the time. Still, success didn't come easy. During those early years, Bea worked odd jobs to make ends meet, testing blood in a lab, performing at nightclubs, and even helping truck drivers move furniture. She kept this side of her life secret from her theater friends because she didn't want them to think she wasn't serious about acting. In 1950, she married director Gene Saks, a relationship that lasted 28 years. They adopted 2 sons, Matthew and Daniel, in the 1960s. Even as she balanced motherhood, she kept her career thriving. Her big break on television came thanks to Norman Lear. He first saw her perform in a small revue in 1955 and never forgot her. Years later, he cast her as Maude Findlay, a sharp-tongued liberal on All in the Family. The character was so popular that she got her own spin-off, Maude, in 1972. The show broke new ground by tackling issues like abortion, menopause, and gender equality, topics no sitcom had ever dared to touch. Bea's performance was fearless and earned her multiple Emmys and Golden Globes. She became a symbol of women's independence and strength on television. Her movie career included roles in Lovers and Other Strangers and the infamous Star Wars Holiday Special, which she accepted as a favor to friends. Even when the project flopped, she gave it her all. Not everything she did was successful, some plays failed, and some shows were canceled quickly, but she never gave up. Then, in 1985, came the show that made her an icon all over again, The Golden Girls. Playing Dorothy Zbornak, Bea brought humor, wisdom, and heart to a show that celebrated friendship among older women. It ran for 7 years and won numerous awards, with each main actress earning an Emmy. The show was groundbreaking in its honesty, tackling issues of aging, love, and loneliness. But behind the scenes, Bea's perfectionism and tension with co-star Betty White sometimes caused friction. She didn't like when Betty broke character or improvised during scenes. According to several people who worked on the show, Bea could be harsh and even used insults when talking about her co-star, though the two respected each other as professionals. By 1992, Bea felt the Golden Girls had run its course and decided to leave, effectively ending the show. She refused to join the spin-off, saying she didn't want to repeat herself or continue something that no longer felt right. After that, she took fewer roles but stayed active in theater. In her later years, Bea became more involved in social causes. She supported AIDS research, LGBTQ+ rights, and organizations that helped homeless youth. When she passed away, she left $300,000 to the Ali Forney Center, which provides housing for LGBTQ+ teens. That donation helped keep the center open during tough financial times and led to the creation of the Bea Arthur residence in 2017. Even as she aged, Bea continued performing. In 2002, at 78 years old, she returned to Broadway with Just Between Friends, a one-woman show where she told stories from her life. The show earned her a Tony nomination and reminded everyone that her voice and humor were timeless. But behind the laughter, Bea battled loneliness and depression. The applause that had filled her life for decades was gone, and she struggled with the silence that came after fame. In 2009, Bea was diagnosed with lung cancer. She kept it private, not wanting people to see her in pain. She spent her final days quietly at home in Los Angeles, surrounded by her two sons. On April 25, 2009, she passed away at the age of 86. There was no funeral, no public memorial, just ashes scattered at sea, as she had wished. Broadway dimmed its lights in her honor, a final tribute to a woman who had changed television forever. Years later, in 2025, her name made headlines again when her military records suddenly vanished from government websites. Fans were outraged, believing her history was being erased. After public pressure, the records were restored. That same year, new revelations emerged about her long-standing feud with Betty White, showing that even legends are human and complicated. Some fans were disappointed, while others said it made her more real. Through all of it, Bea Arthur remained one thing: authentic. She wasn't perfect. She could be harsh, stubborn, and guarded, but she was also generous, loyal, and brave. She used her platform to fight for people who had no voice. Her story wasn't just about fame or television, it was about resilience, integrity, and courage. From a bullied girl in Maryland to a Marine, from a struggling actress to a Hollywood icon, Bea Arthur lived her life on her own terms. Even decades after her death, her influence continues to shine, reminding the world that true strength often hides behind sharp humor and quiet acts of kindness.